Carson Beck looks to rejuvenate his 2026 NFL draft stock in a matchup against Texas A&M in the college football playoffs.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network in 2019, national champion with the LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Offensive prospects to watch, defensive prospects to watch, and key matchups to watch that could decide a big-time playoff matchup between the Miami Hurricanes and the Texas A&M Aggies. Guys, we are going to break all of that down. Carson Beck, Marcel Reed, we're going to talk about it all. But before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Carson Beck, Keith, when you talk about prospects to watch, it just feels like we talk about every other quarterback, like as a community, except for the fact that Carson Beck is like a redshirt senior and he's going to the NFL. Like, it feels like he's the forgotten man out of this class, but I think that we should be definitely watching out for him this in this game, right? A defense that is tough, a defense that has a pass rush that can get after you, and keep quietly, ever since that they lost to SMU in week 10. Since week 10, so Syracuse, NC State, Va-Tech, on the road against Va-Tech, and then on the road against Pittsburgh, Carson Beck has thrown probably like 12 touchdowns to 1 interception. Like, very close to that. I'm trying to do math in real time here as I look at these numbers. But he's playing at a high level in terms of, he's a point guard style quarterback, all of that, and that stuff is true. But he knows how to distribute the football, and if you will give him the protection and everything like that, a run game, he's got weapons, that connection with Malachi Toney, this is a big-time game for Carson Beck to kind of remind everyone, hey, I know there's a lot of other polarizing names, but I'm a quarterback with a lot of experience.
Yeah, no, and not only that, but Carson Beck, especially if he plays well in this game, DP, will be a X factor. He'll be a factor when it comes to the draft, right? Because he has an extensive resume. Now, that resume has peaks and valleys, right? But the question is, when you talk about that threshold of, having won a lot of games, having started a lot of games, being at 2 different programs, showing that you can carry a team for games at a time, right? As far as being that guy that can throw 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and
Jared Goff, Keith. Goff.
Yeah, just and he the thing is with the Jared Goff comp is that I think he's become the Jared Goff of college football in a sense, meaning that he's the guy that can play at a really high level, but when it's kind of tight situations, you're kind of concerned. But also fans are kind of relegated to like, okay, you're a pretty good quarterback, and they kind of move on, right? Like this storyline, like the Jared Goff storyline is that storyline, and I think fans are kind of worn it out, and they're kind of tired of it, right? And I think it's the same thing with Carson Beck.
No, 100%. And I was one off. He 11 passing touchdowns. I thought I was looking at it, I eyeballed it. I said 12. It was 11. I just counted as you were talking. 11 passing touchdowns, 1 interception in his last 4 games. He's playing good football right now, and we got to give him love, guys, because again, if he goes up against this defense and he plays well on Saturday, you advance, you win the game, if he gets a deep playoff run, like there's going to be some conversations had about Carson Beck.
Yeah, no, what I was going to say was, which he's very capable because he's a streaky player. Like,
he's very streaky.
Yeah, he can roll into this thing and be ice cold, and he can roll into this thing and be
just smoking hot.
Yeah, just smoking hot and put some teams away. DP, I'm going to switch teams, man, and I'm going to go out with a couple obvious answers, right? And I'm gonna look at KC Concepcion, right, and what he'll do as an offensive prospect, and just the multitude of ways that he can get the football going up against this Miami defense, which I believe I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe it's better than what it was last year when it was just
absolutely
one of the worst. But it's not a great dominant defense either, right? Like you can get yours against them. So I'm looking at KC Concepcion as a guy that can make some plays, and then I'm also looking at these running backs, DP. These draft eligible running backs with Le'Veon Moss, Amari Daniels, and just see how they're able to get behind this offensive line. And I believe I'm going to be interested to see from a game perspective, because probably I'm thinking about Mike Elko's career, right? Before here was Duke, probably biggest game of his career, right? Mario Cristobal had a couple big time games, I believe, at Oregon, right? But I think biggest game of his career, we're talking about being a Miami guy, back home, head coach, XYZ.
Yep.
Be interested to see the perspective of, and that's why I mentioned the running backs for Texas A&M, and honestly, the running back for Miami, right? Mark
Fletcher.
Yeah, Mark Fletcher. I don't know why I was second guessing myself on that. But looking at those running backs and seeing what team wants to take the approach of, hey, let's, control the clock, right? Let's run the football and let's not turn, like who comes out with a more conservative game plan?
Yeah.
Will these coaches be coaching tight? And if they will, as far as, want to be really conservative, it's going to be interesting to see which run game gets going first, right? And kind of starts getting movement along the line of scrimmage, which you can see that, because both, like, Texas A&M is not going to lose this game at home. That's a lot of pressure, right? And then Miami, you look at Mario Cristobal, he's innately a guy that wants to be physical, right? Like former line coach, things like that. So that's how that's why I want to mention the running backs, because I think it's going to be important for either team to get their run game going, because I think both coaches are going to come in with the same mindset, because I think both of them, if you ask them, I think they both like their quarterback, but the quarterback kind of scares them also at times. Right? I think both coaches probably feel the same way.
100%. I to your point about even with Le'Veon Moss, like he missed like the last 5 games with a high ankle sprain, but it looks like the signs are pointing to. I think he practiced. He was in practice before they played Texas, but they were still being precautious with them, knowing that they had the CFP in the bag. Hey, we're going to play in the playoffs. We need you at 100% or close to it. And whether we win or lose against Texas or not, it doesn't matter. We'd rather you be ready to go come playoff time, because what does it matter beating Texas then you lose round 1, right? If you lose to Texas doesn't make the CFP, but you win round 1, that means a whole lot more to you and for your season, because your season extended. I hope that Le'Veon Moss is ready to go in this game. Him and Reuben Owens, just one of the best running back tandems in all of college football. Both of them can catch the ball out of the backfield. Both of them run well. They vision and patience and footwork. I think Reuben's probably a little bit more dynamic than Le'Veon Moss, a little bit more athletic, but then Moss is probably a little bit more physical in terms of running with power and behind his pads and lowering the shoulder and kind of setting the tone. So yeah, Mark Fletcher, he was hurt too, and he's back and ready to go, and everything from Miami. And we know Miami will absolutely lean on that run game to kind of help calm Carson Beck down.
I want to ask you a question real quick before we transition. Is there anything that Marcel Reed can do to drive the conversation for should he come out in the draft this year? Ooh. Or you think it's a given that he's coming back? Do you is there anything he can do in this game?
In this game, I think for him to really, he would have to play. Now, I'm not saying you got to go out here and throw for 500 yards, no video game numbers. But I think he needs to play just good, consistent football from start to finish. Don't have to come back from behind. Don't turn the ball over. Make the right throws. Make the on-time throws, those timely throws. When they run some of these concepts where they're getting the guy open, lead them. Throw them open. Throw it early. Get it out there. Anticipate it. And if he can start playing from the pocket better and everything, I think that's going to be a big thing for him, Keith, because, I mean, the legs are always going to be an equalizer for this kid. You know what I mean? If you crash and don't play your lanes right, he can gas you, man. He can hurt you. He can hurt you on the ground. But if he starts compounding that with quality play from the pocket, where it's that's any athletic quarterback I ever talked to, listen, that's when you become a weapon. Your legs are always going to be a weapon, but that needs to be your get out of jail free card, like in Monopoly. That's when you use that. Don't let that be the basis of your scouting profile. Like, man, he can run. No, show him that you can throw. And I think if he does that because at the end of the day, his style of play with his frame, you don't want that in the NFL. I don't want you running around 40, 45, 50 yards a game. I don't want you trying to do that. If you can Bryce Young this thing where you drop back, they're playing coverage and you just scramble up the middle, get what's there, get down and protect yourself, cool. But I don't want you running a lot in college, in the NFL, because he's a very thin build. So I think just playing from the pocket, just showcasing he could be a really good quarterback from the pocket.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it'll be interesting to see what happens, right? Especially, I mean, if Texas A&M makes a run at this. DP, let's do this, man. Let's switch sides of the football. You know how we do, man. We talk offensive prospects, we switching sides of the football. It's time to show those defensive prospects some love. We're going to talk about 2026 NFL draft prospects from this matchup, playoff matchup, Miami versus Texas A&M, coming up next.
Ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances, because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Rocket Money finds subscriptions you forgot that you were paying for and helps you clean them up quickly. Seeing all your spending on one dashboard makes it easier to understand where your money is going. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Defensive prospects to watch when the Miami Hurricanes face those Texas A&M Aggies. Keith, I got to go to the man himself, Mr. Bane. He was born in darkness, Keith. Reuben Bane Jr. Going up against this Texas A&M offensive line, and again, Marcel Reed, the runner, the athletic quarterback himself. And on the season this year, you got I think 4.5 to 5 sacks, I think, for Bane, 3 QB hits, 48 pressures and hurries. He has a pass rush win rate of 24%, and on true dropback sets, it jumps to 33%. But a big thing that's been a part of his profile as of late is people wondering about the arm length. People think that he has 31s on the arm, and he's 6'3", 275 with 31-inch arms. So people are like, man, what are we going to do with him? Is he going to be, how high is he going to go? Could this drop his stock? Because we know how the NFL feels about arm length and height and all the, those things, the measurements. But I think this is an opportunity for him, he's had a great season this year. Started off hot. Against Notre Dame, just like the way he played, just dominating that game in the trenches. This is a spotlight game for him because, again, Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, we've talked about Cassius Howell. A lot of these other edge rushers, or Mason Thomas, it's a lot of guys that's trying to climb the ranks or have climbed the ranks. And Reuben Bane, if you feel like you're still a top guy, which I think you should be viewed as that, prove it. This is the game, right? You on the road, especially on the road. Listen, that clip of that picture, Keith, of him before Notre Dame writing all the explicitives about Notre Dame and their players and stuff, getting themselves psyched up for the game. I need him to embrace that villain role on the road. I need you to be in the backfield terrorizing Marcel Reed all 4 quarters. But you got to do that. And you also have to stop the run, because they will try to run the ball, whether it's keeping him being disciplined in his rush path, but also making sure that these running backs don't hurt you either.
Yeah, DP. It's time to take that knob right on the radio that says drama, and we're going to turn it all the way up, right? We're going to turn it all the way up because the defensive player I'm picking Cassius Howell. I'm picking the counterpart. I'm picking the guy on the other side of the line of scrimmage doing the same thing for the other team, and this is why, right? Reuben Bane, consensus, #1 edge, right? But if you're sitting there, Cassius Howell, you're sitting there going into this game and you're sitting there and you're still looking at mock drafts, right? Maybe some mock drafts from me, maybe some mock drafts from DP, right? You're looking at mock drafts and you still see Reuben Bane going ahead of you. by maybe 10, 15 picks, right? And then you're looking at your resume for 2025, right? You're saying, wait, I have double-digit sacks, right? I've been killing it in the pressure situations. I'm the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Oh, I feel disrespected, right? It's time for me to go show why I'm the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. And guess what? I'm coming for the top spot. I want to end this football game with people going back to the film and saying, oh, wait, is Cassius Howell actually the best edge rusher in this entire draft class? That's what I'm aiming for if I'm Cassius Howell. And that's why I feel like just X factor defensive prospects to watch. This young man might have a chip on his shoulder. And we watched him bright lights in the game against LSU, right? Where it seemed like both teams were playing for a lot. I feel like that was a pivot point, which LSU was probably already trending downward some, but I feel like it was a pivot point to where like, oh, could they turn it around or is it done, right? And in Texas, for Texas A&M, it was, hey, is this real or not, right? And Cassius Howell came out there with his hair on fire, right? Like hey, I'm going to set the tone overall. So I'm looking at this young man and I'm like, hey, he can do a lot of different things, line up in a lot of different variations, and the you can't deny the production, right? And I know people get in and say, okay, I believe it's only 1 year of true production, but he was playing backup, right? He still had to play behind Nick Scowerton and all of these other guys that Texas A&M religiously recruits.
Was it Shamar Stewart, I think?
Shamar Stewart, and then Shamar Turner, and like just like how many teams have
a lot of dudes,
Shamars, right? That's how deep and talented Texas A&M has been. So DP, I'm looking at Cassius Howell for sure, and then the other defensive player I say for Texas A&M, cornerback, he's committed to the Senior Bowl, Will Lee, right? Watch out for this young man. He
sticky cover guy.
Yeah, he has to guard the true freshman wide receiver Toney, right, and try to stay with him on vertical shots up the field and things like that. But yeah, I'm for the drama, DP, turning that knob all the way up. I'm looking at Cassius Howell versus Reuben Bane. I want to see this. Who's going to win the edge? One conversation.
No, I like that, Keith. I like the drama. That's what the college football playoffs needs to have, some theatrics, guys. It's all about the drama. Keith, I'm gonna put the spotlight on the guy that we haven't talked about much. I just kind of got into his film. He's a redshirt senior from Miami, because I feel like every time you talk about Miami's defense, it's only the defensive line that gets talked about. None of us have talked about the secondary, corners, safeties, whatever. But Jakobe Thomas, who just they just got his announcement that he's going to the Senior Bowl. He's going to Mobile, the safety. And this is a guy, Keith, like when I was watching, like he's listed at 6'2", 200 pounds. So he's got a good frame, long, tall kid. But his instincts in zone coverage, man, chef's kiss. Like I'm talking about disguising coverage, rolling coverage, baiting you into throws, playing robber and lurker in the middle of the field, like taking away in-breaking routes, post routes, getting his hands on the ball. I can't remember which game it was I was watching. They came out in too high shell. He rotated into like the hook curl defender or whatever, and they tried to throw, I think, a deep out or a corner route to that side, and he didn't get the interception, but he got up and got his hands on the ball and got a PBU, right? But if he wasn't there or he couldn't make that play, it was a clear first down and maybe some more after that. In zone, his eyes, the way he's able to bait and kind of manipulate quarterbacks and thinking, yeah, it's safe. Yeah, it's safe. Like, it's cool. Throw it here. And the next thing you know, he's in the picture. And it was like, yeah, almost guys. He's one of those DBs that he's gonna be looking at quarterbacks, giving them, you were this close to me picking you off. And I think it was an NC State game. He I think same thing, show cover 2, rotated into hook curl. He read the little stop route on the outside, jumped it, pick 6. As he's running down the sideline, he looks at the 6'5", 240-pound quarterback, CJ Bailey, and he waves him on, like to come try and make a tackle. Then he ran him over. You know what I mean? And I was just like, yeah, this is a safety doing. Like, you get that energy from linebackers, right? Like, this is a safety. He's probably gonna be a Dames dude. I like this temperament. I like the way he plays, but at the end of the day, it's the IQ, like the football IQ, the route recognition ability. And going up against a quarterback like Marcel Reed, who is prone to test you once or twice with a not so good decision, Jakobe Thomas is the guy that can make him pay for that. And you don't want to give this Miami offense more bites at the apple, because then they will turn those into points.
Yeah, no, 100% DP. And I don't want to forget one name because you mentioned the Miami defensive line. We have to talk about Akheem
Mesidor.
Mesidor, right? I think that's the proper way to pronounce it. Listen, guy, I think he has 7 to 8 sacks on the season.
Yeah.
Already. He's been a pleasant surprise for this defensive front. There was some talk about him a little bit, right, entering the season, but it was all on Reuben Bane. But he's been holding his weight too, right? He's outpaced Reuben Bane in sacks thus far, and he's been a force. And he's also another big body guy, right? Sitting there, what,
6'3", 280?
Yeah, 275 pounds. So another big guy. So you look at those two guys coming off the edge. I definitely want to mention them because you're talking about one of the best, probably 1-2 punches in all of college football as far as getting after the quarterback. But DP,
Absolutely.
let's do this, man. Let's jump in our bag. Let's talk about these matchups, right? Who versus who, right? Prospect versus prospect, right? Prospect on prospect crime is what we're expecting as far as the 2026 NFL draft. And let's talk about which guys can win matchups, which matchups are going to dictate the outcome of this first round game. Miami versus Texas A&M. Let's talk about that coming up next.
NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips right after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. And guys, they'll let you jump into the 2026 NFL draft moment by betting on who will be the number 1 overall pick. The betting odds favorite is Fernando Mendoza at -150. But if you feel bold, you can get Arvell Reese and bet on him for a plus 2,200. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. The game moves fast, and so can you. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers, and thank you for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in America, all because of you guys. Key matchups to watch, prospect to prospect, scheme versus scheme, all of it, guys. Keith, I go back. I want to start with you talked about Cassius Howell. To me, it's the matchups that I'm watching is him versus Francis Mauigoa, the right tackle from Miami. And it's like strength versus strength, weakness versus weakness in the sense. And it's like that speed and bend and like the ghost punch into the dip maneuver that Cassius Howell has, testing and stressing the range of a Francis Mauigoa, right? Like if you can get him, you get Miami in the 3rd and 10, and you know that Carson Beck is functional athletically, like he can move around the pocket, and if you give him a outlet, he'll go, but he's not a running quarterback, right? Like, so, hey, if we get him in 3rd and 10, I want a wide 9, and I want to pull Mauigoa on that island one-on-one with Cassius Howell, and let's see who's the better man in that situation. But flipping it on the Mauigoa side, if I'm Miami, this is what I think. You brought up the run games earlier, Keith. I go back to that matchup with Miami versus Notre Dame. And Notre Dame has some solid guys off the edge, some young guys off the edge that can rush the pass. And Cristobal said, yeah, we're going to throw it, but we're about to pound this rock as well. And they leaned on that defensive line because that defensive line was a little undersized. Mauigoa in the run game will more than likely engulf Cassius Howell in terms of size and strength, be able to move him off the ball. That defensive line, and like Texas A&M defensive line, I think the other edge rushers opposite him is like Searcy. He's like 255. One of their D tackles is like 290. And they got one guy who's like another D tackle. I think he plays like that 0-1 tech. He's like 315. That's a little bit of a light defensive front against this physical road grading offensive line for Miami. So I'm looking forward to watching that battle in the run game. And then when it is true drop back sets, can Mauigoa keep Cassius Howell out the backfield? Because I think that's going to be a big key. Because if you can't, or will Mike Elko then flip Cassius Howell to the blind side and go after the left tackle on those true drop back sets where Carson Beck can't visually find him, and he's just got to pray that my left tackle keeps me upright.
Yeah, DP, those defensive linemen for Texas A&M that you were talking about, right? Obviously, we know Cassius Howell, but a couple of the guys you mentioned, TJ Searcy, right? And he's a
Yep.
draft eligible guy sitting there I think he's a junior. And then Albert Regis, DP, is the young man that you're talking about that's kind of versatile, kind of gets upfield. He's been making a name for himself over the past couple of years. I just think that he's probably going to come in as the slightly undersized kind of box, right? They're kind of 6'1", 6'2", right around 300, give or take 10 pounds, right? Something like that. Give or take a couple hamburgers. DP, I'm going to go with this, a matchup, and I think people aren't going to expect this pairing, but I'm going to go Marcel Reed versus these edge rushers from Miami versus Reuben Bane and Akheem Mesidor. And the reason why I'm thinking about Texas A&M running potentially that read option, right, or that RPO situation, and how many times do you leave that backside defender, and that may be Reuben Bane or Akheem Mesidor, right? And are they disciplined enough not to crash down the line of scrimmage and try to make that tackle right on that running back, and then give Marcel Reed the opportunity to get out in space? And then if they are in space, if they do read it properly, can they break down and tackle maybe pound for pound, and it's not a lot of pounds in Marcel Reed's case, but most elusive elusive quarterback, in the entire draft class or in college football, period. So I'm looking at that. I think if I was Texas A&M, I would stress that, right? Like, okay, cool. Both of y'all boys, it's not like y'all 230 pounds, y'all 275. I'm about to see how well y'all can move, right? And sometimes we've seen this time and time again, even when we talk about X's and O's of the NFL, right? Sometimes that best edge rusher, leave them alone. Don't block them, work to the second level, and let's just kind of keep them at bay and kind of neutralize him by giving him more than one thing to do and forcing him to think. So I'll be looking at that and seeing how much Texas A&M decides to go to that from a schematic standpoint.
And I'm gonna throw into that matchup. I'm gonna throw the spotlight on the quick guy before I jump to my next matchup. Dametrious Crownover, the 6'7", 335-pound right tackle for Texas A&M. Like this, him versus Reuben Bane, and in one-on-ones, they're tailor the tape, right? You know, you look at whenever you see it, whether it's MMA or boxing, they pull up the two fighters, and it's like, who's got the weight advantage, the height advantage, the reach advantage. I wouldn't be surprised if Dametrious Crownover, the right tackle at 6'7", might have the reach advantage over a Reuben Bane, but then Reuben Bane will have the leverage advantage because he's going to be the shorter player to get underneath his pads. Marcel Reed is going to need his offensive line to protect him, to allow him to play his style of play and just play ball and be comfortable in the pocket. And then when things break down, that's when, to your point, make them big boys chase you. Let's see how good your stamina is for 4 quarters after I'm running around you and getting out of the pocket time and time again. And now you go from, and we know that Reuben Bane and Akheem Mesidor have great, they're high motor players. But the drawback to that is you're chasing the ball until the whistle blows. Well, you're going to keep chasing, and you're going to get tired by the 4th quarter, man. Like, that's just the nature of the situation and things of that nature. But I want to go to a quick matchup. You talked about Will Lee. I don't think Will Lee will see much of Malachi Toney because Toney plays all slot. It'll be this kid, Tyreek Chappell. Tyreek Chappell. I'm looking – this is – because I'm telling you, most people in the draft space probably don't really recognize the name like that. Yep. But for him, 5'11", I think he's like 80 to 85 pounds. Malachi Toney is the security blanket. And let me say this, for those who have not seen him, he's one of the best receivers in college football as a freshman. Like, I've seen the comps of, I've seen people try to throw out that Tyreek. I cannot do that to him. I'm not calling that kid Tyreek Hill. But let me tell you something. Route running, change of direction, explosiveness, yak, he has it all. He has all of that. Now, is he going to be a 50-50 jump ball guy? No, probably not, because he's probably like 5'10". You know what I mean? Like 5'9", 5'10", somewhere like let's say 5'8" to 5'10". Like he's 5'8" to 5'10", somewhere in there, right? So he's probably not going to win a ton of jump balls, but if you get on the island one-on-one, hey, praying hands, because this guy gets open consistently, and they isolate him so he can get open and let him work one-on-one. So for Tyreek Chappell, this is a game for him, Keith, just to really make a name for yourself and make people then have to go back and watch your tape from the regular season. Like, hey, you know what? This kid who's been in college football for about 5 years, it's like a 5th-year redshirt senior. You know what? He's pretty solid. I can spend a late day 2 pick or an early day 3 pick and get ourselves a starting nickel corner that will tackle, that can play man, play zone, showcase your skill set against one of the most dangerous receivers in college football, in Malachi Toney, a guy that nobody has really been able to figure out without trying to put a bracket on him.
Yeah, no, I like that call out because he's a versatile piece too. In the secondary, right? Like he's a guy you're gonna see move around, and he also makes plays. And then you hit the nail on the head. He's a guy that's played a lot of college football. I think he's been playing probably since his freshman or sophomore year. But he has a lot of snaps under his belt. So a big time game like this shouldn't rattle him. But then also seeing that type of speed, right? At some point, I feel like he may have seen something similar along his career, especially when you talk about teams like Tennessee, right? That just make everything a track meet all day long. DP, I'm gonna wrap up real quick with just not even a matchup, but just mention a name that we haven't mentioned yet, and that's Texas A&M linebacker Tauren York. This young man, this is a leader. This dude can play football. He's listed at 5'10", 230 pounds.
I don't care. I'm drafting him.
Yeah, and I was just about to say that, right? He doesn't play that way. And this is where we talk about measurables versus instincts, right? And that's Tauren. Like this guy understands how to play in the box. He understands how to get to the football. He delivers big time hits. This young man is fun to watch. And linebacker is not consistently. I love watching linebackers, right? They have a soft spot in the heart for me. But I understand in the draft space that linebackers aren't necessarily the most fun guys to watch.
Defense in general.
Yeah.
Defense
but this guy is a fun guy to watch, right? To partake in watching this film. So look for this young man to make plays, whether that's tackling Fletcher out of the backfield, whether that's, being on maybe some green dog blitzes or something like that to go get after Carson Beck. Maybe that's dropping in coverage because he is athletic and intercepting the football. But Tauren York, this young man, he knows how to play football. He will be playing on Sundays.
Keith, I'm so glad because I forgot about him. I forgot to mention so many prospects in this game on both sides of the ball. I completely forgot about Tauren York. I'm glad you highlighted him because this is a guy who's definitely becoming a Dame's dude. I love what he brings to the table. And like I said, I don't care that he's 5'10". I'm still drafting him because the instincts are there. This dude sees it fast. He moves fast. Everything. I want to throw out a name to you, Keith. Ivan Pace Jr. Remember out of Cincinnati, 5'10", 230. He's the starting. He's been a starter throughout his career at Mike backer, will linebacker for the Minnesota Vikings, and he's made impact plays for them when in that Brian Flores defense, right? 5'10". So guys, I'm telling you now, you can't tell me it's not possible. He can. Tauren York is a better player than him. Yeah, Ivan Pace was just a bull in the china shop. Like he just wanted to hit everything.
Thumper. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I look at Tauren York with that athleticism. I think he'd drop off in coverage. Heck, I wouldn't be shocked if he can rotate back and play some safety if you need him to. I think he's athletic enough to do all of it, and he has the instincts and football IQ. Sign me up as a Tauren York guy, Keith.
Yeah, it reminds me too a little bit of, remember Pete Werner coming out of Ohio State, and then people said he was kind of undersized, but he's quietly, and unfortunately because he's been in New Orleans, right? And they just haven't been good over the past few years, but he's quietly one of the better 1-2 punches, right? Like if you have a true Mike backer and then letting him play alongside that, like this, like he's pretty good too. And I kind of view Tauren in that same kind of mode where he could be that complimentary piece, or if you're getting a Patrick Queen light, right, where he can be that complimentary athletic piece, something like that. But DP,
hey, hold on, Keith. At the end of the day, Saints fans, you heading in the right direction. We getting shucked tonight. We getting shucked tonight, baby. You heading in the right direction, man.
Well, DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to my everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at the Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On tomorrow's show, we'll be breaking down the prospects to watch on offense, defense, and those key matchups to watch when Tulane gets their rematch against Ole Miss. Will it be another 6-score affair or 6-score win for Ole Miss? We'll find out later on this weekend, but we're going to break all the prospect stuff down for you on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.